Success is created by doing the basics to a high standard consistently. Thibaut. My friends, don't forget tomorrow in the United States, the market is closed for Thanksgiving. There will be a shortened holiday hours on Friday. That'll be from 9:30 until 1 for the stock market. Bond market closes at 2. So, for our Patreon supporters, your 20 weekly vertical crossovers, you can still be looking to potentially jump into those. You'll just have to do so a little early on Friday. Now, again, if you want to know what that's about, you can go to our Patreon page, check that out. We send out up to 20. We usually have 20, although this week it is a little sparse. I'll be working on those tonight, getting those out to you soon. But again, we give out 20 weekly vertical crossovers, both we try to find 10 up and 10 down each and every week on the S&P 500 for you to have a few things to practice trade. Let's jump into these charts. We see stocks and bonds are up, gold and Bitcoin down. Check out this week. We start with the S&P 500 as we usually do. Sometimes we'll start with Bitcoin. We'll get to that at the end. What do we see going on? Well, we can see the candles have been getting smaller, but have been reaching higher highs. That is good to see. Price percent oscillators flat. Derivative oscillator still gaining some momentum. Now check out the 2-day. If you recall yesterday, we were talking about the first day of the latest 2-day candle. Well, it is drawn now. It's got a little wick on top, wick on the bottom, but we can see that it's dropped through that prior 2-day trend line, and there's really no way to draw a trend line to capture that. So that is sure enough a drop through. We see that it is just above it. It's got a wick that's dropped down but not penetrated the weekly, and it is above that still. Price percent oscillator still positive. Looks like it's heading down. Derivative oscillator continuing to lose momentum. We look at the half-day chart, and of course we see where things have sort of started doing a U there, where they dropped down, slowed down, and then moved up at the end of the day. Price percent oscillator, though, still negative. Derivative oscillator is negative. Price percent oscillator has been negative quite a while. You can go back many days, couple of weeks, as to when it crossed over going down. In fact, it's been, a couple of weeks. So we will continue to watch and see how things continue to move along, but we do see some weakening there in the S&P 500. Those of you who dropped in to that weekly vertical crossover back on the 5th, do pay close attention if you're still in that trade and haven't cashed out. Like we said, up for the day, 0.27%. Nasdaq 100 up for the day, 0.32%. And again, we do see, like the S&P, reaching higher highs, those candles getting smaller. Price percent oscillator looks like it's just a little more than flat. Derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. Go to the 2-day chart. We can see where that price percent oscillator just losing a little bit of energy heading down. Derivative oscillator just barely positive. Red down candle. It hasn't pushed, well, it's pushing through that 2-day trend line, reaching down to touch on that bottom wick, the weekly. So again, weakening there. Also pay close attention to what you see going on after we had that huge bump up on the Friday, Monday 2-day candle, getting all the way up to 408.71. This last 2-day candle all the way down to 392.54. So again, a lot of loss there. We look at the half-day chart and it looks very similar to what we saw with the S&P, sort of where things bottom out, tried moving up at the end of the day, but that price percent oscillator and derivative oscillator still negative. So again, pay attention. Make sure that you look at what's going on these larger charts. That 2-day in particular is giving you some interesting points to pay attention to if you've not already cashed out of that practice trade. Let's go to 20-year bonds. Up for the day, 1.61%. What does that do for us after all the prior down movement? It gives us another laminated price percent oscillator. Check it out. Just sliding sideways now as far as the price percent oscillator goes for how many weeks? Looks like it's about 4 weeks. Again, very interesting. Bonds in a state of flux is what I would say. 3 strong up weeks and then of course 2 questionable down weeks. Lots of, again, when we see red spinning tops, indecision tending down, and you can see the boxes themselves all contained within the prior green box. So on the candle, derivative oscillator still gaining a little bit of upward momentum. That price percent oscillator is just barely above the red signal line. So again, we'll keep watching things. Lots of indecision on bonds. Look at that flat line on the price percent oscillator. Derivative oscillator's gone negative at this latest down candle, but again, lots of indecision on bonds. The half day, we can see where bonds hammered down for a while, popped up for, what is that, 3 days, down for 2 days, and then meandering back up again. So lots of indecision there in bonds. The 2-day is still confirmed up. The weekly is barely up. So we'll watch and see what happens to bonds on Friday. Remember, again, market closed on Thursday for Thanksgiving here in the States. Gold down for the day, 0.10%. Big down week after gold had many up weeks gaining momentum, slowed down over the course of this last week, and then, of course, this current week hammering down. Derivative oscillator losing momentum, price percent oscillator positive, heading down. 2-day chart, whoom, check it out. And what do we see happening? Well, it looks to me like, if I'm reading this correctly, and I think I am, 0.73, so we actually have a 2-day crossover going down. It's not a recross, it's just a crossover going down on the 2-day chart, which causes us to do what? To redraw that. Told you guys I jumped into this, I jumped into gold, and of course sold my position almost 2 weeks ago now. It did very well for me. When it first popped up, it hit my sellout point, and that is exactly what I did. I hope some of you all were able to do the same on a practice trade on gold. But again, derivative oscillator still a little bit positive, but that price percent oscillator has crossed over going down. So that would take you out if you were still in a gold trade. That would absolutely take you out. You had plenty of reasons not to be in it at that later point. Half-day chart, again, we can see where things accelerated down and then sort of started slowing down after hitting something around the 166.50 mark or so. We'll continue to watch that price percent oscillator still moving down. Derivative oscillator negative, lost some of that downward energy a little bit at the end of the day. That is where we are on gold. Lastly, we go to Bitcoin. Down again, my friends, 1.30% red down candle for the week. Solid red, no wick on top, little wick on the bottom. Price percent oscillator getting ever so closer to a weekly vertical crossover going down. It's been preceded, of course, on the 2-day chart. Back on the 2-day candle representing Monday the 15th and Tuesday the 16th. That was your last ringing bell to get the hell out. And of course, hopefully, if you were in a Bitcoin trade, you considered that. Now, the other thing to think about is those you looking to get into a Bitcoin practice trade. Of course, let's let this down movement play itself out and then find an intelligent buy-in point for your practice trade. If you want to learn how to trade Bitcoin, when to buy, when to potentially sell, then you need to start tracking these charts with us. Those who've been with us a while and seen it since you asked us to start charting Bitcoin, we saw it was chartable and we started doing that. I have received your emails. You love it. You appreciate the fact that you can watch Bitcoin and accurately chart it. It's beautiful, isn't it? So again, keep practicing. We're not a stock calling service, not a Bitcoin buying service or an advisory service. We're an education website, but train with us. Learn, put into practice all that you learn here and everywhere else. And then and only then, when you think you're good enough, can you even consider spending your own money. That's your decision based upon the expertise that you develop on your own. God bless, my friends. That is where we... Oh, wait, let me just go to the half-day chart before I sign off here. Again, all it is showing us is just that continued running down of Bitcoin. Should you be buying Bitcoin when you see charts that are setting up like this? 8 days of strong down movement with a 2-day crossover going down, red down candle forming for the week. Is that a time to be buying Bitcoin for your practice trades? No, it's not. If you can read a chart, you can save yourself a lot of trouble and expense. That's what we want you to learn. That's where we are, folks. Happy Thanksgiving to all our friends in the U.S., to the rest of you around the world. God bless you all. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.